The world is incredibly loud, but the most dangerous men in any room are always completely silent. Have you ever noticed that? While the masses are losing their minds over minor inconveniences, arguing in traffic and throwing tantrums over perceived disrespect, there is always that one man who simply watches. He does not react. He does not break his frame. You might think reacting with aggression makes you look strong, but that is a massive illusion. Anger without control is not power. It is a public display of weakness. Today we are going to expose a hidden truth about psychological dominance that 99% of men will never figure out. We are talking about training your mind to remain absolutely calm no matter what disaster unfolds around you. This is the blueprint for modern Stoicism. If you are tired of being emotionally manipulated by your environment, you are in exactly the right place. Tell me in the comments right now, what is the one thing that always makes you lose your temper? Admit it, and then prepare to eliminate it forever. Let us establish the reality of the battlefield you are stepping into every single day. The modern world is systematically designed to trigger you. Outrage is a literal currency. Social media algorithms, news cycles, and even workplace dynamics are built to provoke an emotional response. Why? Because an emotional man is a predictable man. A man who cannot control his temper is incredibly easy to manipulate. Society gives men two terrible options today. You are either told to suppress absolutely everything until you have a heart attack, or you are told to cry about every minor setback and embrace constant vulnerability. Both of these paths lead to ruin. There is a third way, the elite way. Modern Stoicism is not about turning yourself into a cold, unfeeling robot. It is about feeling the entire spectrum of human emotion and consciously deciding not to act like a fool. It is about placing a massive, impenetrable wall between a negative event and your reaction to it. This is where true masculine power resides. When you control your mind, you control your reality. Let us begin. The illusion of control. Let us begin with the foundation of all suffering. You believe you can control the world. You believe you can control how your boss treats you, how your partner reacts to you, or how the economy shifts. You absolutely cannot. The weak man breaks his mind trying to bend reality to his will. The elite man understands a fundamental truth. The only territory you truly own is the space inside your own head. When you anchor your emotional stability to external events, you become a slave to those events. If your peace depends on someone else acting correctly, you are a hostage. To train your mind to stay calm, you must brutally sever the cord between your self-worth and the unpredictable nature of the world. Focus entirely on your own actions, your own words, and your own character. Everything else is background noise. Let the world burn, as long as your internal fortress remains secure. This is the very first step toward true masculine power. You must surrender the illusion of control over others to gain absolute control over yourself. The architect of your own suffering. Consider for a moment the last time you felt intense anger. What actually caused it? Was it the event itself, or was it the story you told yourself about the event? The vast majority of men are completely unaware that they are the architects of their own misery. They walk through life with a rigid set of expectations. They expect traffic to be clear. They expect people to be polite. They expect their efforts to be instantly rewarded. And when reality inevitably clashes with these fragile expectations, they shatter. Modern Stoicism teaches us that it is not the event that harms you, but your judgment of the event. An insult is just a sequence of sound waves traveling through the air. It has no physical power to harm you. The damage only occurs when your ego decides to accept the insult as a threat. The elite man does not expect the world to be perfect. He expects chaos. He anticipates betrayal, delays, and friction. By preparing his mind for the worst, he removes the shock value from adversity. He remains calm because he is never caught off guard. The myth of suppression. There is a massive misconception about what it means to be a truly stoic man. Weak individuals will tell you that it means turning yourself into an emotionless statue. They claim that emotional control is just bottling up your feelings until you eventually explode under the pressure. This is completely false. Suppression is a tool of the weak. It takes absolutely no strength to shove your feelings into a dark corner and pretend they do not exist. True Stoic mastery is about observation, not suppression. When the strong man feels a sudden surge of anger, fear, or frustration, he does not deny it. He steps back and observes it. He looks at his own emotion as if it were a physical object placed on a table in front of him. He asks himself, where is this coming from? Is this emotion useful to me right now? Will acting on this impulse serve my ultimate goal? He feels the adrenaline rushing through his veins, but he refuses to let it hijack his nervous system. He retains his power of choice. You're allowed to feel anger. You are just not allowed to let it make your decisions. The golden second of choice. Between every stimulus and your reaction, there is a space. In that space lies your freedom and your power. Ordinary men have no space. Someone insults them, and they immediately bark back. Something goes wrong, and they instantly panic. Their brain is wired on a simple trigger and response loop, exactly like a trained animal. To train your mind for absolute calmness, you must stretch that space. You must cultivate the golden second of choice. When disaster strikes, before you open your mouth, before you clench your fists, you force a physical pause. You take one deep, deliberate breath. In that single second, you transition from a reactive animal to a rational strategist. You ask yourself, what is the most effective response here? Not the most satisfying response, but the most effective one. The man who can master this single second of hesitation becomes incredibly dangerous. He can never be baited into looking foolish. He dictates the pace of every interaction because he refuses to operate on anyone else's timeline. The weaponization of silence. Society has taught you that you must always have an answer. You have been conditioned to believe that whoever speaks the loudest wins the argument. The exact opposite is true. Silence is the most terrifying weapon in the arsenal of an elite thinker. When someone is trying to provoke you, they are desperately seeking your energy. They want you to argue, to justify, to raise your voice. When you meet their chaos with absolute, unbreakable silence, you starve them of the oxygen they need. You force them to sit in their own awkward, aggressive energy. Silence communicates complete psychological superiority. It says, your words are not important enough to disturb my peace. The next time someone disrespects you or tries to pull you into a petty argument, look them dead in the eyes and say absolutely nothing. Watch how quickly they unravel. Watch how they start over-explaining and backtracking. By saying nothing, you control everything. Train yourself to be comfortable with the uncomfortable pause. Redefining disrespect. Most men are incredibly fragile when it comes to disrespect. Their entire sense of self-worth is propped up by how other people treat them. If someone cuts them off in traffic or speaks down to them, their ego immediately registers it as a lethal threat. You must evolve past this primitive mindset. The elite man understands that disrespect is rarely about him. When a person is rude, aggressive, or insulting, it is a reflection of their own internal chaos, their own insecurities, and their own lack of discipline. Why on earth would you let a chaotic, undisciplined person dictate your emotional state? When you react with anger to an insult, you are implicitly agreeing with the insulter. You are saying, "Your opinion of me matters more than my own." A strong mind rejects this completely. You must view disrespect as a diagnostic tool. It simply tells you that the person in front of you lacks emotional control. You do not need to punish them. Their own lack of discipline is already punishing them every single day. The anxiety trap and time travel. Anxiety is the ultimate destroyer of calmness. But what exactly is anxiety? It is nothing more than your brain traveling forward in time, inventing catastrophic scenarios that have not happened and forcing your body to react to them as if they are real. You are suffering on purpose over ghosts. The Stoic mind understands that the future does not exist. It is a blank canvas. The only place where you have any actual power is in the present moment. When you feel panic rising about a project, a relationship, or a financial issue, you must forcefully drag your consciousness back to the exact second you are living in. Ask yourself, right now, in this exact moment, am I okay? Do I have what I need to survive today? The answer is almost always yes. Stop wasting massive amounts of mental energy fighting imaginary battles in a future that may never arrive. Focus all of your aggression, all of your intelligence, and all of your discipline on dominating the current hour. The future will bow to the man who conquers the present. Loving the chaos. There is a concept known as amor fati, which translates to a love of one's fate. It is not enough to merely tolerate the bad things that happen to you. Merely surviving adversity is the baseline. The elite level of mindset is actually embracing the chaos. When your car breaks down, when you lose a major client, when a relationship ends, the weak man asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The strong man smiles and says, "This is exactly what I needed." He understands that every single obstacle is a custom-designed training program for his character. You cannot forge mental toughness on a comfortable couch. You need friction. You need pain. You need things to go horribly wrong so you can practice remaining calm while fixing them. Once you shift your perspective from being a victim of circumstance to being a student of adversity, you become untouchable. You stop dreading the storm and start looking forward to it. You realize that the fire does not destroy you. The fire is what hardens the steel. The mental energy audit. You only have a finite amount of mental energy every single day. Every decision you make, every argument you engage in, and every worry you entertain burns through that precious reserve. Ordinary men are completely reckless with their mental energy. They spend hours arguing with strangers on the internet. They obsess over celebrity gossip. They complain about the weather. By noon, their cognitive reserves are entirely depleted, leaving them weak and reactive. If you want to remain perfectly calm, you must become incredibly stingy with your attention. Conduct a ruthless mental energy audit. Does this argument matter to my life? Does this news story affect my goals? If the answer is no, drop it immediately. Do not invest a single drop of your psychological fuel into things that do not yield a return. Protect your focus as if it were millions of dollars in cash. When you stop bleeding energy on trivial nonsense, you will find that you have a massive reservoir of absolute calm when a real crisis actually hits. Detachment from the final outcome. One of the greatest sources of emotional turbulence is our obsession with the final result. We put in the work and we desperately crave the applause, the promotion, or the victory. But the outcome is never fully in your control. The market could crash, the judge could be biased, or a competitor might simply get lucky. If your peace of mind is attached to the victory, you will live in a constant state of agonizing suspense. The Stoic framework requires total detachment from the outcome. Your only goal is to execute the process with absolute perfection. Did you train as hard as you could? Did you speak the truth? Did you act with honor? If you did everything within your power, the result is irrelevant. You find your satisfaction in the flawless execution of your duty, not in the external reward. When you detach from the outcome, the pressure evaporates. You no longer fear failure, because failure is just an outcome. You only fear compromising your own standards. This is the essence of deep psychological freedom. Building the mental fortress. Your mind is a citadel, and right now, you are leaving the gates wide open for anyone to walk in and trash the place. People dump their negativity, their panic, and their toxic worldviews right into your brain, and you just accept it. To maintain calmness, you must build high, thick walls around your consciousness. You must become the ruthless gatekeeper of your own mind. This means actively curating your environment. It means cutting out the doom scrolling. It means distancing yourself from men who constantly complain and play the victim. Your mental diet is just as important as your physical diet. If you consume psychological garbage all day, you will become anxious and weak. Surround yourself with silence, with great books, with challenging tasks, and with men who demand excellence. When you build this fortress, the chaotic noise of the modern world simply bounces off the exterior walls. You sit inside, untouchable, calm, and ready to execute your daily mission without distraction. Severing emotional contagion. Emotions are highly contagious. Have you ever walked into a room where two people were just arguing? Even if they are completely silent, you can feel the tension in the air. This is a survival mechanism built into our DNA. We absorb the emotional states of the tribe around us. But you are no longer a primitive animal. You must consciously guard against emotional contagion. When someone approaches you in a state of sheer panic, your natural instinct will be to match their energy and panic as well. The elite man does the exact opposite. He recognizes the panic in the other person and deliberately drops his own heart rate. He speaks slower. He lowers the pitch of his voice. He becomes the anchor in the storm. Do not let other people infect you with their lack of emotional discipline. You must be the firewall. When chaos hits you, it stops with you. By maintaining a slow, deliberate physical state, you actually force the people around you to calm down and match your superior frequency. The power of micro-adversity. You cannot expect to remain calm during a major crisis if you have not trained your nervous system during peacetime. You must introduce micro-adversity into your daily routine. This is the practice of voluntary discomfort. Take a freezing cold shower every single morning. Fast for 24 hours. Push yourself through a brutal workout when you are exhausted. Walk in the rain without an umbrella. Why? Because you are intentionally triggering your body's fight or flight response in a controlled environment. You are teaching your brain that discomfort is not an emergency. You are proving to yourself that you can endure physical and mental stress without losing your composure. When you consistently expose yourself to small doses of pain, you inoculate yourself against the shock of real tragedy. The man who willingly suffers in his training will never bleed in the actual battle. Make discomfort your closest ally, and the world will lose its ability to intimidate you. Stripping the narrative from reality. Our brains are narrative machines. We do not just observe facts, we immediately wrap those facts in dramatic stories. If someone does not reply to your message, the fact is simply a lack of a text. The narrative your brain creates is that they hate you, that you did something wrong, and that you are losing their respect. It is the narrative that causes the anxiety, not the fact. To master Stoic calmness, you must practice stripping the narrative completely away from reality. You must become a ruthless, objective observer. Look at the situation with cold, mathematical precision. What actually happened? What are the undeniable physical facts? A man lost his job. Fact. The narrative says his life is over. Drop the narrative. A woman rejected him. Fact. The narrative says he is worthless. Drop the narrative. When you reduce terrifying events to their bare, objective components, they lose all of their emotional weight. They become simple puzzles to be solved, rather than tragedies to be mourned. The hidden danger of your ego. If you trace almost every emotional outburst back to its source, you will find the exact same culprit: the ego. The ego is your internal sense of self-importance. It is the voice that whispers, "How dare they speak to me like that? I deserve better than this." Do you know who gets angry the fastest? The most arrogant man in the room. His ego is so inflated and so fragile that it is constantly bumping into reality and getting bruised. A truly strong man has tamed his ego. He does not think less of himself, but he thinks of himself less. He realizes that the universe does not care about his feelings. He understands that he is not the center of the world. When you shrink your ego, you become incredibly difficult to offend. If someone criticizes your work, your ego wants to fight back. Your Stoic mind says, "Let us evaluate the criticism objectively. Is there truth to it? If yes, I will learn. If no, it is irrelevant." A small ego is the ultimate armor against emotional turbulence. Radical acceptance of the present. Fighting against the present moment is the definition of insanity, yet we do it all day long. We stand in the rain and scream that it should be sunny. We look at a shattered glass and demand that it be whole again. This refusal to accept reality is what destroys your peace. The top 1% of men practice radical acceptance. Once an event has occurred, it is locked into the fabric of history. No amount of rage, tears, or regret will change it. Radical acceptance does not mean you approve of the situation. It means you acknowledge that it is happening. Your business failed. It is happening. You were betrayed. It is happening. Accept the brutal truth immediately. The faster you accept reality, the faster you can pivot and strategize your next move. Every second you spend wishing things were different is a second you waste not fixing the problem. Calmness is the natural byproduct of a mind that is entirely aligned with reality, no matter how harsh that reality might be. The discipline of objective perception. Most men look at the world through glasses tinted with their own insecurities, past traumas, and fears. They never see situations clearly. They project their own internal garbage onto everything they encounter. The Stoic path demands the discipline of objective perception. You must train yourself to see things exactly as they are, without adding any emotional flavor. If an obstacle arises, do not call it terrible, unfair, or catastrophic. Call it an obstacle. The words you use internally dictate the chemical reactions in your brain. If you use dramatic language, your body will release stress hormones. If you use clinical, precise language, your mind will remain stable. It is not a nightmare. It is a logistical challenge. It is not a disaster. It is a temporary setback. Master your internal vocabulary. Speak to yourself like a commander briefing his troops. Cold, rational, and focused purely on the execution of the next logical step. Mastering the first hour. You cannot expect to have a calm day if your morning begins in absolute chaos. How does the weak man wake up? He hits snooze 3 times, grabs his phone, and immediately floods his brain with the toxic waste of social media and news. He starts his day reacting to the world. The elite man understands that the first hour of the day dictates the psychological momentum of the next 15 hours. You must master the morning. Wake up early. Do not touch your phone. Drink water. Move your body. Sit in absolute silence for 10 minutes to calibrate your mind. Remind yourself of your Stoic principles. Tell yourself, today I will meet ignorant, ungrateful, and jealous people, and none of them will have the power to disturb my peace. By taking proactive control of your morning, you build a massive shield of momentum. You do not step out into the world hoping to survive. You step out fully armored, ready to impose your own order onto the chaos. The nightly interrogation. A man who does not reflect on his actions is doomed to repeat his mistakes forever. True emotional mastery requires a rigorous system of accountability. This is the nightly interrogation. Every evening before you close your eyes, you must put yourself on trial. Review the events of the day objectively. When did I lose my temper today? Why did I let that comment bother me? Did I act with honor, or did I act like a frightened animal? You must be brutally honest with yourself. This is not about self-pity or guilt. Guilt is useless. This is about data collection. You are auditing your own psychological performance. By shining a harsh light on your emotional failures, you ensure that you will not make the same error tomorrow. You identify your triggers. You analyze your weak points. Over time, this daily habit of self-correction sharpens your mind into a deadly instrument of rationality. You become a man who is constantly evolving, constantly tightening his grip on his own reactions. Becoming the unbreakable man. All of these principles lead to one singular destination: the creation of the unbreakable man. This is the man who walks through a world gone mad, yet his heart rate never spikes. He is not aloof. He cares deeply about his purpose, his family, and his mission. But he refuses to be torn apart by the unpredictable winds of fate. He knows that true freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. True freedom is the ability to dictate your own internal state, regardless of external circumstances. When you finally achieve this level of Stoic mastery, something incredible happens. People begin to look at you differently. They sense your solidity. They gravitate toward your calm energy during times of crisis. You elevate your status not by shouting the loudest, but by being the immovable rock in the center of the rushing river. This path is incredibly difficult. It requires daily vigilance. But the reward is absolute psychological sovereignty. You become the master of your fate. The culmination of this journey is not a sudden moment of magical enlightenment. It is a slow, methodical, and brutal forging of a mind that absolutely cannot be broken. You now understand the mechanical structure of your own emotional reactions. You know the hidden secrets of the elite 1%. You understand that true masculine power is never loud, never frantic, and never reactive. True power is the quiet, terrifying confidence of a man who knows that no matter what the world throws at him, he will remain standing. He will remain calm. He will remain in absolute control. The modern world desperately needs men who can hold their ground when everything else is falling apart. The question is, will you step up and be one of them? Thank you for watching. If you are genuinely serious about mastering your mind and joining the ranks of those who truly understand psychological dominance, subscribe to the channel right now. And leave a comment below answering this one final question. What is the one emotional trigger you are going to destroy starting today? Stay strong, stay stoic.